All right, going live today. So, welcome everybody. Sorry I'm a little late. Real life got me held up. So, um, as you know, normally not really around this time, but on Tuesdays, I used to do a segment called Taco Tuesday, but that has been sort of put to rest. Um, and I am now doing a morning show on the Mayday Network with Michelle Kinney and Julie Roginski. So, but I've been, I've been doing some other things, and I've been busy. And I said, you know what, man, I miss kind of writing on my Substack. I miss, just kind of doing these talks. And I said, you know, I'm going to see if I can do maybe just a quick sort of daily dispatch, right? Because a lot of this stuff I'm trying to figure out with a rebrand on well, not a rebrand, but just trying to figure out what do I want to do with this thing. Hey, what's up, Nick? How you doing, man? Nick Parr, everybody. Sick of this show, uh, and or sick of this shit show, and Banner and Backbone. And I'm trying to figure out what do I want to do. You know, definitely want to be more consistent. Definitely want to be, you know, do more shows like this. No. Uh, have an evening, like do more in the evening, have a written piece, go from there. Hey, what's up, Courtney? South Carolina. Okay, dig it. Yeah. You know. Um, and so so instead of missives, right, which is more of a written piece, this is going to be the dispatches, right? So I'm going to take a topic for the day and discuss it. And today we're talking about. I want to talk about the chaos that's going on, both in the government shutdown and with Chicago and Portland. Because I know a lot of it seems pretty terrifying right now. I mean, obviously so. But I think we're looking at sort of an extinction burst, both of the right wing and Donald Trump's power. And I'll break down why I think that. First of all, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that there's a lot of there's a lot of rotten fruit that's about to fall off the tree. I wish I could think of a better analogy than that, but with the U.S. economy, that is about to, a lot of bills that are about to come due. We're seeing that in farming. We're seeing that in manufacturing, which now has hit seven consecutive months of drop, which is absolutely due to Trump and the tariffs and the just the trade deals he screwed up or problems he's done on his own. And I think just like Portland, just like Chicago, a lot of this stuff, the spectacle of it is for distraction because they know the bad news is about to hit. And I'll kind of explain that in a minute. See, the ADP, which is a payroll company, where they talk basically they take the data of all the payrolls, so it's not as deep as the Bureau of Statistics and Labor, BLS, or Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the BLS report, which is the jobs report. It's not as deep and as thorough as that, but it's a good snapshot. And they had it to where we lost 32,000 jobs in the month of September, and they revised August to where they've lost jobs. And so Trump had this big thing where, it's, because of the shutdown, we're not going to be able to produce that report. Very convenient. And the guy he wanted the handpicked guy who was completely unqualified after he'd fired the woman who headed up the jobs report and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Even the Republicans in the Senate were like, no, we're not signing off on this guy. He's a lunatic. We're not doing any of this. So Trump really, you have the shutdown, and he says, well, can't do this. And conveniently, Mike Johnson recesses Congress. Hey, what's going on, Beth? He recesses Congress to not come back until October 14th, which again is convenient because the Consumer Price Index report that drops on the 15th, and it's going to be bad because that's going to include the price hiked for consumer goods. So we're talking like groceries, household items, automobiles, things of the actual real economy and not Wall Street. And it's also reflective of inflation, So Robin says they had the job numbers September 29th and 30th, clearly trying to hide the data. Yes, they absolutely are. And so they're going to, by the time they come back, when that CPI report comes out and it's bad, they can distract with negotiations in the government, which is BS. And for anybody who says that, oh, well, the Democrats did this or they, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. Republicans control all branches of government currently. The budget item, the CR or whatever, the Republicans would be within their right to, quote, use the nuclear option, but that's not exactly really what it is, right? You're not blowing up the filibuster. What it is essentially you can, for budgetary items, you can go ahead and just suspend the rules of the filibuster for that particular vote. And the Republicans could absolutely do that. But they don't want to do that because they want the Democrats to come along with them as they gut the subsidies, the subsidies for Medicaid and Medicare. That's why they wanted to do it. And plus, it's a distraction. So now this is going to be like, I think, the fourth or fifth shutdown for Trump. I think, and we've had like only one in the past 3 other presidencies. So that's and it was Obama, which the Republicans did that one. So Republicans in the House. And so now we're left. So Trump by far has the most of any president on record. So just like the distractions that are going on in Portland and Chicago, with them just kidnapping people off the street, it's very brazen and out in the open. It's meant to like make people afraid, and it's the spectacle of it. It's all a distraction from both the Epstein files and basically like the looting of the American treasury by the rich. And the economy is going to implode. The seeds for that were laid back in April when we screwed up, like when you basically saw those ports that were empty in Los Angeles and then in Seattle, and trucking grind to a halt and tourism tanked and everything else. All that's getting ready to come to a head. And if retailers have a bad retail season, in November and December, I mean, that's it. That's the year is going to tank. And so you're going into next year and there's no hiding it at that point. And so Trump wants to create the thing that Trump is a master of is distracting the things that he's done with other BS. Like, so the BS he's done, he'll distract it with other BS. It's like, don't look over there. Don't look at the Epstein files. Look over here. I'm going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Or I'm going to do this. Or I'm sending troops. I'm going to do the Insurrection Act. I'm going to send troops into Chicago. Like, oh, look over here. Don't look over there. Don't look at the job numbers. Don't look at the economy. Don't look at consumer prices in beef skyrocketing. That's what all this is it's an okey doke. Because the thing about Republicans never actually want to govern. They want power for sure, right? But they don't actually want to govern, you know. And power for them at this point is basically just, hey, can I get in front of a camera and get money from donors for acting like a jackass? It's just spectacle. They're entertainers, just like Trump. You know, at this point he's a diva president who has dementia. You know, there is no long term goal, right? You don't like not like the Nazis where it's like it's Lebensraum. It's even Stephen Miller is just he's a crackpot. He's a xenophobic, racist crackpot. That's it. You know, doesn't make them any less dangerous. Doesn't make them any less culpable. But they're not these Lex Luthor types. They're not this. It's not this Orwellian conspiracy. In fact, it's just brazen. It's not brilliance. It's brazenness. That's it. And once people actually stand up to them, it's over. The problem we have now is the people that are supposed to do that are not. You don't have a political opposition party that's leading the charge and really pushing back. You have some in that party, like Jasmine Crockett and AOC and folks like that that are pushing and leading the charge. But the business class is timid and terrified, which is shocking to me. And, you know, until they won't be, until it actually really hits them. I was talking to a buddy of mine on the phone today. Um, and, I said, we were talking about all this stuff going down. And, there's a quote by, horrible human being, Andrew Breitbart. But he was right on a lot of things. And this is where the right kind of gets and understands human psychology and they understand human behavior. Is that politics is downstream from culture. It's a fundamental misunderstanding that a lot of people have on the left. Is that culture and politics are inextricably linked. It's why this lukewarm centrism never works. When you have this push of, we got to get away from the identity politics. All politics are identity politics because culture is wrapped up with identity. How do you have a culture that doesn't have a identity or resonance to it? You don't. So all politics is identity politics because culture is wrapped up in identity. That's why you have black culture, you have gay culture, you have men culture, like women, all that other stuff. That's why subcultures exist. It's part of how you function with an identity as a human being. Because part of being a human being is you relate to other human beings. And so the thing is, what we don't understand or what we don't push for is this lukewarm, it's like this hot, it's this bowl of tepid water that no one wants. Like, okay. But what's happened on the right is the culture war has gone bananas. It's now toxic. It's now eating its own, because you're terrified of, you want to punish trans athletes in college, which isn't a thing, that are taking the spots from women. Now your healthcare and your rural health clinics are getting cut because the guy you thought was your orange-haired messiah, he's cutting your funding because he didn't care about you and he never did. That's where all that FAFO is coming from. I mean, the fact that they actually wrote it down you know, and put it in a playbook and said, well, it's there, but Trump doesn't. He disavowed it, you know, and he doesn't really believe that. Okay, well then why did his vice presidential pick write the forward to it? So the thing about this is this culture that they've created on the right and in MAGA is not self-sustaining. And it's not self-sustaining because it doesn't care about the community. It doesn't care about the welfare of the members of that community. It's just based on cruelty and sadism. And any kind of culture like that is not going to last. It just won't. And MAGA's, you know, going through that right now. And that's why, a lot of this evidence for them falls on deaf ears. They don't care, you know, is because for the longest time, it's like, it's not about, what's objectively true. It's about how they feel about things. And for a lot of us, culture is something that's just imprinted on us. It was forced on us. We don't question it. We don't think about it. It's a lot of people are walking around with unexamined belief systems. They've never really thought about it. They believe in the way their parents believed in. Whatever religion typically your parents were, that's what you ended up with. Whatever beliefs they had about other ethnicities or women or whatever, that's what you ended up with because that was imprinted on you, whether it was, you know, straight up just telling you or just something you saw reinforced every day. And so for these MAGA folks, they've never questioned it. And so it evokes a fight or flight response when they encounter it. And so, but the thing is, because this isn't self-sustaining, because this thing really is just, it's going to eat itself. It really will. It's going to be painful and it's going to be hard. We're going to go through some maybe some harrowing stuff, but it's going to eat itself. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump is just an old, demented man that knows he's dying. When was the last time before this did you ever heard of, Donald Trump talking about God in any kind of way whatsoever? He's talking about him now on TV. He knows his time is short. And just like everything else, he's trying to con his way into what he thinks is the afterlife because he's terrified of what comes next. Fascist movements and dictatorships are not so self-sustaining, especially in this a culture like ours and with just the landmass that we have. You want to send troops into Chicago? Go right ahead. Sure. For what? What's their mission? What crime? What crime are you hoping to stop? The marathon that they just ran in Portland today? Sure, I guess. You know, Yeah, they're gonna do damage. They're gonna kidnap people. People are gonna get hurt. They're probably gonna get killed. And that's gonna be awful. But what does an occupy of Chicago look like in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months? You gonna have troops stationed there in winter? Stand outside with checkpoints? So Beth asks, is anyone else dealing with depression and anxiety? Oh yeah, I do. I think we all with this, you know. Yeah, if you are, this is a anxious you know, and depressing time, but I mean, it's important to understand the context with this, right? I think I think a lot of people they either have this copium or hopium, which is like Everyone's waiting. Oh, there's Trump. He slipped up. Oh, it's the downfall. Oh, it's the 25th Amendment. Oh, it's this. It's like, don't know when that's going to happen. No idea. It'll happen when it happens. Or the other side of it is the doomers who are just like, it's going to be fascism. It's going to be this. It's the Fourth Reich. Oh, God. They're going to get us all. We're all going to be in camps. It's not going to be that either. You know, this is an extinction burst because what has happened in our culture is we are not going back to the way things used to be. We are not going back to women losing all of their rights. It's not going to happen. They got it with Roe v. Wade, but you're not going to get it to where women can't buy homes anymore. They can't have credit cards. They can't, have a bank account. Because why? That would destroy the economy and everybody's wealth would go with it. And they're not letting that happen. Roe v. Wade happened because they said, oh, that's just going to affect poor women. Poor women of color. That's not going to, because women of means, they can do that. Well, it turns out it crossed over into suburbia. Oops. Because the fringe has become the mainstream of the Republican Party. And that's what happened. And so, women are buying more houses today than men. Women are getting more advanced degrees than men. That's not going to slow down or stop. It's just not. Because rarely do these conservative these conservative revolutions really take hold. There's been a few examples in history. Iran's one of them. And or Afghanistan. And really it's just you have to have in that culture already baked in. We don't. We really don't. And so those ultra conservative Christian nationalists, they know it. They 100% know it. And so this is their last bit of extinction burst. But here's the thing is where's the cultural programming to try to get people to sign on to this? Because the thing that would help you the most is typically when dictators take power, they help their own supporters first and foremost, because it's part of that is to attract other people to that side. And they're not doing that. In fact, that's what's happening that is what's happening. Sorry, my dog's barking and threw me off. Their supporters are getting the worst of it. They're getting hurt the worst. And they're feeling it. You got farmers now that they're getting hip to the con, man. It's like, so wait a minute. We're going to bail out a billionaire named Rob Centrone, who owns a lot of the Argentinian debt to the tune of $22 billion. And then they're also going to get $14 billion in soybean contracts from China that we lost, that now we can't sell our soybeans. Wait, what? Do you want to give them $22 billion, my tax money, that's going to go to a billionaire who's friends with the Treasury Secretary, and then China's also sending them their business because you screwed that up? Never mind that 84% of the farmers actually voted for Trump and thought well, if it gets bad with the tariffs, we'll just get a bailout. The thing was, they thought it would affect people not like them and they didn't care. But what's happening is it's actually hurting them first and foremost. That's why they're mad. That's why I keep saying Trump is a dictator, but he's a stupid one because he's attacking his base of support. And I don't think they're going to get bailouts this time. I think their farms are going to fail. and they're going to sell them, and they're going to get bought up. I'm not saying that's a good thing, and I'm not happy about it. But yeah, like Stephen Miller, all these people, they're they're fringe. They're lunatic fringe. You know, and they're not going to like. This does not bode well for the Republicans. I'm not talking about like even voting in 2026. And getting in the House and making a show of it. Because if we take back the House and maybe get close to the Senate, and we pass toothless resolutions, and Trump is like, "Meh, I'm not signing it, man." You've got 2 more years of dysfunction, which is probably like the best case scenario. Um, what we're really talking about, and one thing I want you guys to take away from this is we're talking about a culture fight. That's why you can't really have unity with these people. Because if your culture, like, like, are you an authoritarian culture? Which is what they are at this point. Christianity in America is insular at this point. If you listen to the way these folks talk, it's not about like, hey, let me go out and, you know, prophesize. Let me lead by example and get people to come into Jesus. No, it's we have to stay amongst ourselves, and we can't have outsiders or outside influence in because it's wicked. That's why it's going to fail. Because the moment you step out of that narrow confine and you go out into the wider world and you've been told that Democrats are demons and trans people are evil and they're all bigots, or they're the ones that are the sexual assaulters, but then time after time after time, it's the preachers or it is the white men that are abusing little like children, little girls and women. After a while, reality catches up. And that's when you have, and this is an extinction burst because reality is banging at the door. The US dollar has lost 10% of its value since Trump took office. You can't fight math. And that's where you're at. And so we're fighting a culture, and this isn't the dumb culture war. It's like Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, oh, Starbucks and blah. No, no, no. This actually, we have been in a culture war. Do you have a culture that values equity, quality, nonviolence, debate, democracy, you know, tearing down the patriarchy, you know, tearing down racism, you know, feeding the homeless, get like everybody has food security, housing security, food, shelter, clothing, like access to medical care, mental health care, all that. Or do you want to just keep giving money to the billionaires? Do you want to be cruel? Do you want to exploit people? What culture do you want to see happen and keep and progress in America? That's what we're in. And when you look at it through that framework, you understand it's like, oh, that's where we're at. Yeah. So yeah, that was my quick kind of jump in. My dog's getting crazy. He's wanting to beat down the door, you know. Um, yeah. So anyway, I'm hoping to do these at least Monday through Friday. Um, you know, thank you guys for tuning in. I want to just touch on like a topic, um, just something to talk about, you know, and yeah, hopefully, maybe like just talking about it is you know, we'll make it a little less hard out there. But yeah, man, don't let this crazy stuff weigh you down. You know, it's we'll get through it. We have in the past. We will again. And we're going to get through it now. Anyway, that's all I got for you. As always, keep the faith, defend democracy. And I'll see you later.